From homeless to millionaire. The story of a black man inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Aisha's life was anything but ordinary. On any given night, she lay on cracked Chicago sidewalks, the cold biting through the thin layers she called a blanket. She knew hunger like an old enemy, unforgiving and constant. But tonight was different. A crowd filled the park, buzzing with excitement, lights cutting through the dark like sharp knives. It was a charity event, a gathering of the city's elites, promising change, but often delivering little. And there, standing just beyond the glow of expensive cameras and polished shoes, was Elon Musk, the man everyone whispered about. Half hero, half enigma. Aisha's heart pounded loud enough to drown out the chatter. She wiped the grime from her hands, smoothing her tangled hair. Hunger gnawed at her throat. But it wasn't just food she needed. She wanted a chance to be seen. Her Elon's eyes flicked down, curious. A hush fell around. People shifted, whispers curling into suspicion. She didn't flinch. I'm not just here for food. I want to tell you my story. Elon's smile was patient, almost rehearsed. I'm listening. The conversation twisted and turned quickly. What started with hunger became a raw exchange, a dance of ambition, hope, and harsh reality. Aisha spoke of cold nights, shattered dreams, and the razor-thin line she walked every day. Elon talked about success, innovación, and the moral obligaciones del poderoso. But beneath his calm words, Aisha sensed shifting shadows. When he offered to fund a new initiative, promising her a ticket out of the streets, the catch emerged like a crack in ice. She would have to play a role, a victim, in a story designed to inspire pity. Not her full truth. Just a chapter framed by struggle, not strength. Her chest tightened. The weight of his offer pressed down like the aftershock of a storm. Was this chance worth the price? Could she wear this label, even if it wasn't hers? The idea crushed her pride but dazzled with sweet relief. At that moment, a memory itched at her mind. A locked box of secrets, tangled in family ties she barely understood. The birthing cracks of trauma, silence that screamed behind closed doors. The fight inside her roared. Accept a gilded cage or shatter it. Clawing back her own face, her own name. The crowd's laughter and chatter seeped back in, sharp and distant. Aisha's hand tembló con Elon. Espejo tenía ambas con paciencia y calculación. Allá por debajo de la superficie esperaba una propuesta. De que Lante afecta, Karan, y quiere su mi historia, el simbólico para lo que yo quiero. El mundo se puede separar. Lamentablemente, quedaría vueltas intentando a ellos la construyeron. La noche se profundizó. And Aisha se posó a la pared de todo, teniendo que cambiarla para siempre o costarle la única cosa que nunca se le iba a olvidar. Hey, antes de continuar con esta historia a mediasamente, te voy a dar una advertencia importante. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Aisha's question hung in the air like a challenge. A distant noise broke the moment, a thunderous crack that sliced through the buzz of the crowd. A blazing flash lit up the park, stealing the warmth of the night away. Gasps rippled through the onlookers, heads turning toward the source, expressions twisted in confusion and fear. "What was that?" someone shouted, panic rising. Aisha felt her heart race. Uncertainty churned inside her. Elon, what? Suddenly, chaos unfolded. A group of men, masked and menacing, surged into the park, wielding loudspeakers that blasted orders. "Get down! Down on the ground!" The crowd stumbled in confusion, some running away, others frozen in shock. Aisha's pulse pounded through her veins. Elon's expression shifted, his composed facade cracking as he pushed Aisha back, his voice barely a whisper. "Stay close." But it was too late. The masked figures were already upon them, displacing everything: wealth, power, safety. "No, this isn't happening!" Aisha thought, her heart thundering. She couldn't believe the world around her was turning upside down. Rich and poor, now indistinguishable in their fear. As she ducked instinctively behind a nearby tree, she caught a glimpse of a glinting weapon in the hands of one of the intruders as he fired a shot into the air. The sound was deafening, a bullet of anxiety carving through the noise of the crowd. People screamed, furniture toppled, and the laughter of the night was replaced with sheer terror. Aisha's breath quickened, her mind racing. With adrenaline surging, she moved deeper into the shadows, feeling the bark of the tree against her back, grounding her in this madness. Overhead, she saw something else, a figure struggling against the thugs. It was Elon, pushed to the ground, his polished shoes smeared against the dirt, a stark contrast to the wealth he represented. "Help him!" Aisha's instincts screamed, but her own fear held her back. She felt but still, she hesitated. What did his fall mean for her? Around her, whispers escalated. "Did you see that? He's not the savior!" Voices filled with disdain echoed through the trembling crowd. The chaos continued, but in that fleeting moment, Aisha spotted someone behind the attackers. A woman, stepping out from the shadows. Her face was familiar. Aisha's heart dropped as recognition struck. It was her sister, Kira, the one who had vanished years ago, swallowed by family feuds and silent pain. "Aisha!" Kira's voice broke through the noise, desperate. Before Aisha could respond, Kira's eyes locked onto Elon, and an emotion flashed across her face. Betrayal? Was there a deeper connection she didn't know about? A piece of their past that had been hidden, buried under the weight of family secrets? In that instant, Aisha felt the ground beneath her shift. Everything she thought she understood fractured like glass. Instead of the figures of inspiration she imagined, were their connections tangled in despair? "Why are you here?" she shouted, pulling Kira's gaze. But before she could say more, an explosion rocked the park, sending debris flying. The crowd roared with panic, and Aisha was thrown to the ground, the world erupting in a haze of confusion and terror. As she lay there, gasping for breath, the reality hit harder than any blow. The men, her sister, Elon. Nothing was what it seemed. The night darkened, and Aisha felt the weight of choices yet to come pressing down on her. What did it all mean? Would she emerge from this chaos as a victim or something far greater? As she tried to rise, everything hung in the balance, leaving her on the precipice, waiting for answers that might never come. Aisha's voice hung in the air, heavy with defiance. The crowd froze, breaths held tight in anticipation. Time felt stretched, like a taut string ready to snap. Just when she thought she could own her story, chaos erupted. A sudden crack echoed through the park. A shot? Confusion swept through the crowd like a wave. Faces twisted in shock, eyes darting around for the source. Aisha's heart raced, every beat a drum in her ears. She turned her head, scanning the expanse of polished shoes and designer suits, searching for the danger. Then it came, a panic surge. Boo! People shoved past her. Cries of "Get down" and "Run" pierced the night. In an instant, the charity event flipped from glamour to horror. Aisha grasped Elon's arm, her fingers digging into the fabric of his jacket, needing to find grounding in that chaos. "What's happening?" she gasped. But his face had changed. The calm, rehearsed smile vanished, replaced with something colder, sharper. "Stay back!" he shouted. It wasn't her or the chaos he was worried about. Fear flickered in his eyes. It seemed directed not at the danger around them, but at something deeper. And then it happened. A woman, a figure Aisha barely registered before, lunged forward from the crowd, yelling with a voice that cut like glass. The words were slurred, frantic, spilling out like water from a shattered dam. "You took everything from us! You don't get to control the narrative anymore!" Aisha's head spun. Who was she? The crowd parted as the woman rushed forward, her face twisted in a mix of rage and despair. As she got closer, Aisha's chest tightened. There was something familiar about her features, something unsettling that made Aisha's heart race. Before she could think, a flash caught her eye. The woman was pulling something out of her pocket. A glint, a glimmer. Aisha's breath hitched. "No!" she screamed, reaching out. But it was too late. The world erupted in chaos. A loud bang filled the air, a gunshot that shattered the night. People stumbled backward, shrieks mingling with the clamoring of feet. Aisha's heart dropped. She felt the ground slip beneath her. A flash of crimson painted the white linen of the table's edge as chaos spiraled out of control. Elon stumbled, clutching his shoulder, where blood began to seep through his shirt. He collapsed, a grimace cutting across his face. The crowd gasped, the urgency morphing into a panic like they were all caught in a swirling storm. Aisha's world swayed. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands shaking. As she checked him, her eyes flickered to the woman who had created this chaos. She was gone, lost into the throng of bodies, leaving only screams and confusion in her wake. "Help!" Aisha yelled, voice breaking, but all she could hear was the rising tide of fear, drowning out everything else. Elon's eyes were wild, pain shooting through him. You have to tell them the truth," he gasped, each word strained, heavy with urgency and something unnameable. Aisha's world crackled with uncertainty. Everything spun. What truth? What had she even begun? And in that moment, staring into Elon's fading blue eyes, she realized something profound and terrifying. The story she thought she understood was merely the cover of a much darker book. As sirens wailed in the distance, the air thick with confusion and dread, Aisha faced a grim reality, blending with her own fractured past. Every heartbeat echoed the question, a truth buried deep and waiting to be unearthed. What if the only way forward was to uncover secrets that were never meant to be found? Aisha's world swayed as she knelt beside Elon, the chaos swirling around them. Questions crashed through her mind like thunder. What truth? The weight of uncertainty wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer, mingling with the cries of fear and shock. All she could focus on was the fading light in Elon's eyes. "Stay with me," she urged, clutching his shoulder, the warmth of blood seeping through her fingers. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. "Tell me what you mean." His breath came in gasps, each word a struggle. "You have to." He paused, his eyes darting, searching for something or someone. "Find out who I really am." A piercing scream cut through the chaos. Aisha snapped her head up. Amid the panic, she noticed a figure moving against the crowd. A man, tall and commanding, pushing through the hysteria like he owned the night. A chill ran down her spine as they locked eyes. "Get back!" he shouted, his voice a blend of authority and anger. People scrambled away, but something about his presence drew Aisha in. Her instincts screamed to flee, yet she held her ground. With a sudden, jarring movement, he reached for something hidden beneath his coat. Aisha's heart raced. Was it a weapon? Would this be another twist in a night full of terror? But instead, he revealed a small device, a sleek, intricate gadget that blinked with a digital glow. The crowd gasped collectively as the device lit up like a beacon. "This," he bellowed, "is the key to everything!" Elon's eyes widened with something Aisha couldn't place. Fear. Recognition? Desperation? She needed answers. With a sudden, fierce resolve, she pushed back her initial dread and moved toward him, her heart pounding. "What do you mean? Who are you?" Before he could answer, a loud explosion rocked the park, debris raining down like confetti of chaos. Aisha ducked instinctively, shielding herself. When she looked up, the man was gone, replaced by a new wave of panic. Sirens blared closer, slicing through the thick air, urging everyone to flee. "Where did he go?" she muttered, scanning for traces of the mysterious figure. But her attention snapped back to Elon, whose face was pale as he grimaced in pain. "Help me!" he gulped, blood trickling down his arm. Tears pooled in Aisha's eyes, mixing with the confusion. She felt torn. One moment, she wanted to scream at him for this mess, and the next, she was desperate to save him. "You didn't tell me anything." "Trust me," he murmured, but the words hung in the air like a ghost, preceding something darker. In that instant, the skies above seemed to crack open. A blinding flash erupted overhead. A drone swooped low, its camera lens directing right at Aisha and Elon. A sinister voice echoed through the chaos, amplified and mocking. You thought you controlled the narrative, didn't you, Mr. Musk? Tonight is just the beginning of a game you can't win. Aisha's heart sank. Who was this voice? What game? Everything she thought she understood shattered in that moment. Elon's eyes met hers, panic lacing his gaze. They know too much. He grabbed her wrist, pulling her closer. It's not just about us. Ooh, they will come for you too. What a deafening roar filled the air as the drone zoomed away, the roller coaster of fear accelerating. Aisha could feel the panic of the crowd building, the helplessness washing over her like a tide. What does that mean? She screamed, pulling back slightly, feeling the urgency to distance herself from the situation, but not from him. Tell me! But just then, everything jolted. A figure emerged from the shadows once more. It was Kira, breathless, face pale, desperation etched across her features. Don't trust him, Aisha, she cried out, her voice cutting through the tumult. You have to run! Before Aisha could process her sister's warning, something in her chest twisted. The relationship she fought to understand was tangled in webs of lies and deceptions. She had stepped into something more colossal than she could comprehend. A dark narrative spiraling out of her control. Elon gasped, gripping Aisha's hand tighter, his eyes wide with realization. They're coming now! The reality crashed in, razor sharp, leaving Aisha breathless. Choices loomed ahead, dangerous paths waiting to be taken. She could feel her world tilting, the very foundation cracking under the weight of truths yet to be unveiled. In that instant, the air thickened with mystery and danger, leaving her questioning everything she believed. And as echoes of chaos encircled them, Aisha's heart raced with one thought. Was she ready to uncover the truth, no matter how devastating? Aisha's voice hung in the air, heavy with possibility and fear. The crowd held its breath, eyes flicking between her and Elon. The weight of 1,000 stories pressed against them. She longed to break free, to scream, but the moment stretched thick. A panicked shout pulsed from the back of the crowd. People turned, heads snapping in every direction, and Aisha's heart raced, confusion boiling inside her. But it wasn't just noise, it was a movement. A man, wild-eyed and shaking, burst forth from the shadows. With unkempt hair and clothes torn, he stumbled into the light, his hands raised in desperation. Elon, you need to listen! You're in danger! His voice was raw, cracking with urgency. Elon's brow furrowed, eyebrows drawing together. The murmur of shock rippled through the crowd. Aisha stepped back, unsure. Who was this man, and why? Was he calling out for Elon? Aisha, Elon said softly, his calm facade beginning to crack. He turned toward the man. What are you talking about? But the man was already scrambling closer, eyes darting with fervor. They're coming for you! The ones who control everything. This is a setup! He pointed out into the night, shaking like a leaf in the wind. You think you're helping? You're being used, just like the rest of us. They want to silence you. The crowd gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. Aisha felt her heart thud like the beat of a drum. What did he mean? Who were they? Was she a part of something much larger? Elon remained still, but eyes wide, confusion mixing with a flicker of fear. Who are you? How do you know this? He pressed, the calmness of a businessman fraying at the edges. Because I was one of them. I worked for them. The man's voice grew frantic, desperation tinged with madness. They'll do anything to keep the truth from coming out. Aisha's mind raced. Whew. Was this man sincere, or just another tragedy wearing the mask of delusion? She noticed the shift around her. Some people were backing away, while others were inching forward, drawn to the unfolding drama like moths to flame. "Stop!" Elon's sharp command cut through the tension. "You're scaring them!" But the man stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Open your eyes! Aisha's truth, your truth. It's all part of a game. They want stories that fit their narrative. What you think you're building is a facade, and they're watching." Aisha felt the ground shift beneath her. The anger bubbling in her chest turned to fear as she struggled to grasp the implications. Was there truth in his madness? Would her story be twisted into something unrecognizable? "Get him out of here!" someone shouted from the crowd, but the man stood firm. "You don't understand," he yelled, desperation morphing into despair. "If you think this is just about helping people, it's much darker. You matter. Your voice matters. Don't let them take that from you." Aisha felt a lump rise in her throat. The stakes were higher than she realized. Would she let herself be history's pawn, or find a way to turn the tide? And who could she trust? As chaos erupted, a commotion spilled into the park. A blur of sirens and flashing lights. Dread seeped in like cold air as the crowd began to scatter. Aisha's choice loomed larger than ever. Everything she hoped for was clashing with an unimaginable reality. Could she fight back against a world eager to overwrite her story? The night closed in around her, full of shadows and whispers. Aisha stood in the chaos, her future hovering, waiting to unveil the truth in the darkness. Aisha's heart raced. The air thickened with tension. Collective breaths held. Elon's brows furrowed. Curiosity tusiendo en una cosa hacia adelante skeptica. "Your story?" he echoed, a challenge lingering behind his words. "Yeah, my story," Aisha replied, her voice sharper now, rising above the murmurs. But just as the crowds quieted, a chaos erupted from the far end of the park. A taut string snapped. A woman stumbled out of the throng, arms flailing, face twisted in panic. "Help! Please, somebody!" she shouted, her voice a piercing siren cutting through the night. Aisha turned, her focus shifting, instinctively drawn. A wave of dread washed over the crowd as people glanced nervously toward the source of the commotion. The woman was barreling towards them, eyes wild, clothes disheveled. "They're coming! They want him!" she gasped, collapsing onto the grass. Breathless, Elon's demeanor shifted. The mask of calm cracked slightly, revealing flickers of concern. "Who wants who?" he asked, his facade wavering. "John! They're after John!" The woman's sobs cut deep as whispers enveloped them. He tried to expose the truth. About the charity. About them. "We have to go!" Her eyes darted as if shadows chased her. Confusion swirled around Aisha. "What truth? What are you talking about?" The woman's breath was shaky. "People you know, the ones you trust. They're lying. This charity, it's a cover for something bigger." At those words, a shroud of silence fell. The crowd exchanged glances, uncertainty coiling tight in the air. Aisha felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The excitement of the night dimmed, replaced by a haunting urgency, the raw pulse of fear. Then, a series of sharp cracks shattered the quiet, gunshots echoing through the park. Gasps rose, and people began to scatter. Arc clipped on asphalt. Screams pierced the air. "Run!" was the only command that rang through the chaos. Aisha felt her heart stop. Elon hugged the woman tight, a protective aura suddenly strong. His eyes scanned the surroundings. "This way," he urged, leading them away from the noise. Aisha hesitated, feeling the pull of choice once more. The woman, crying now, clutched Aisha's arm, her grip tight as panic flooded her eyes. "Please, if you want to know the truth, come with us." Aisha's instincts clashed, adrenaline roaring. The world swirled, a melting pot of emotions. Was she supposed to follow this thread? Buried secrets unraveling in front of her. Behind them, chaos erupted. Voices shouted, confusion unchecked. Aisha took a step back, her mind racing. Their previous conversation faded away. Elon Musk, the man who had promised her a ticket out, transformó en sus ojos. Suddenly, she understood. Everyone had a story, but hidden beneath layers of control was another truth, a darker narrative. Amid the shouting and running, a shadow broke through the crowd. A figure, tall and imposing, emerged, framed by the chaos. A hushed awe covered the ground. What did he mean for them? For Aisha? In that moment, time stretched. Every choice crashed down like a wave. Would she dive deeper into this new truth, risking everything for a shot at freedom? Or cling to the one safe idea that it would all wrap neatly in a bow? Her heart raced. The night wasn't just changing, it was imploding. And Aisha stood there, on the brink of a decision that would redefine everything. A glance back at Elon showed nothing but urgency etched on his face. As the figure stepped closer, revealing a face familiar, yet distorted by the noise, Aisha's mind churned. This was a crossroads, not just for her, but for everyone. What truth would she uncover? What lives hung in the balance? She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world shift again. Aisha took a breath, her heart thudding like heavy rain. What if I don't want your story? What if I want mine? The crowd froze. Whispers dried up. A tension slipped into the space, thick like fog. Elon's smile faltered, but his eyes held steady, searching. For a moment, it felt like they were alone under the night sky, while the world faded around them. But just as she thought she might find her voice, a sudden commotion broke through the silence. Shouts, frantic movement. A figure burst through the crowd, a skateboarder weaving like a dart among the stunned faces. Aisha squinted, the strobe of lights catching the outline. It was a young man, clothes tattered, but his face alive with urgency. Then, "Aisha," he yelled, his voice breaking. The name echoed like a gunshot. She jerked, her heart skipping. Was this? He skidded to a halt, pushing his messy hair back with trembling hands. "It's me, Jamal. You need to come with me now." "What?" Aisha's eyes widened, confusion pooling in her gut. "What are you doing here?" "Now, no time," he urged. the panic in his eyes sparking something deep within her. "Your brother! They found him!" At that instant, a loud crash pierced the moment, the sound of glass shattering. A commotion swelled in the crowd, screams blending with sharp gasps. Aisha's heart sank like a stone, dread curling in her stomach. That name, her brother. Memories flooded back. Times she'd run after him, laughter twisting into shadows of worry. She looked at Elon, the offer still heavy between them. His calculated gaze shifted, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. She didn't care. All of this, the cameras, the fancy clothes, the promise, felt meaningless. "Jamal, what do you mean? You can't wait. They said he's back on the streets again." The words crashed over her like waves, pulling her under. Jamal reached out, grabbing her wrist, urgency thrumming through the air. "Come on, we have to go!" Aisha hesitated, glancing back at the event. The glassy-eyed spectators now transformed into a backdrop of chaos. Would she leave? "Your brother needs you!" Jamal pressed, fear edging into desperation. She felt the world tilt, the facade of hope shattered, her thoughts racing. All the dreams she clung to in the shadows of the city now felt hollow. Elon shifted, concern breaking through his cool demeanor. "Aisha, think about this. You have an opportunity!" A sudden shout broke the air again, and the skateboarder stumbled backward, colliding with a merchant selling flashy watches. Time cracked and blurred, the pain of her past colliding with the bright falsehood of her future. Then, a flash of blue lights swirled around the corner, piercing the dark. The crowd gasped, faces blurring in shock. A police car screeched to a halt, the siren blaring like a shriek in the night. Her heart thundered. They were here for him. With a quick tug, Aisha broke from Elon's grasp, her decision made. "I have to go!" She ran toward Jamal, adrenaline screaming in her veins. With each step, the facade of her potential life faded, leaving only the burning fear for her brother. The chance at truth pulling her forward. Behind her, Elon's voice rose above the noise, but she didn't hear the words. The crowd parted, and she dashed through, the lights of the police car flashing, shadows closing in on her choices. Aisha didn't know what waited ahead, but she felt something shift inside her, something fierce and determined. As she reached the edge of the crowd, one thought echoed. Everything had changed, and she had yet to grasp the depth of what she was stepping into. Aisha pushed through the crowd, adrenaline surging, the chaos around her mixed with Jamal's frantic pleas, urgency propelling her forward. As she ducked beneath arms and legs, her heart banged against her ribcage. But then, just as the blue lights blared behind them, something caught her eye. A flash, a glimmer in the darkness. She stopped, momentarily distracted. People surged past her, wild-eyed, but she felt anchored in place. There, at the edge of the crowd, stood a tall figure, his silhouette cutting through the confusion. He stepped forward, and Aisha's breath caught. It was him. "Dawn," she shouted, suddenly forgetting everything else. Her brother stood there, bloodied and bruised, but alive. The rush of disbelief coursed through her veins. "Aisha!" he yelled back, a mix of desperation and hope. But before she could run to him, chaos shifted once more. The crowd jerked as a series of voices erupted, all shouting warnings, intertwined with screams. In that instant, John's expression shifted from relief to fear. "Aisha, don't!" he shouted, raising a hand, eyes wide as if he saw something she couldn't. Before she could process his warning, a group of men came crashing through the crowd, their intentions clear. They moved like shadows, eyes cold, scanning for John. Aisha felt panic clawing at her throat as Jamal pulled her back. "We need to go now!" His grip tightened on her arm, but her eyes locked on John. The air thickened with tense energy, bodies struggling for space. "John!" Aisha fought to break free. She needed to reach him, to wrap her arms around him and hold him tight. But suddenly, from the back of the throng, a woman lunged forward, terror etched in her face. "Get away from him!" she screamed, her voice piercing like a knife. Aisha's heart stopped. It was Kira. They had found her. The crowd hushed, confusion rippling through the sea of faces. Kira stood there, wild-eyed, blocking the men with sheer will. "He's not yours!" she shouted, voice trembling but fierce. "You can't take him!" The men hesitated, but only for a moment. Then chaos erupted once more as they lunged forward, forcing their way past Kira. Aisha's heart raced. The world shifted around her as everything rose to a fever pitch. "Move!" Jamal shouted, pulling Aisha close. But she wouldn't be moved. She was locked onto John, the anguish on his face striking a chord deep within her. Before Aisha could react, a blinding light shot across the park, illuminating everything in surreal clarity. The moment fractured, freezing time in a single heartbeat. Then, the explosion came. A sudden blast from the ground beneath them sent people hurling. Instinct kicked in, and Aisha dove to shield herself. She felt the force of heat and noise, chaos folding into itself as she rolled away from the flames flickering above. When she opened her eyes, it was a world turned upside down. The crowd was gone, scattering like autumn leaves before a storm. Panic rose, choking the air. Through the haze, she spotted John's figure, but the look on his face was wrong. The strife melted away in an icy realization. The distance between them cleared, revealing not her brother, but a stranger. The piercing eyes behind the shadows were not John's. "Where is he?" Aisha gasped. The man smirked, a knowing glint in his eyes. Everything she thought transformed in that instant. "You really believed he was coming for you?" The ground shifted beneath her, a seismic revelation breaking free. "What do you mean?" she yelled, shock flipping her world upside down. Behind the man, Kira reeled, horror stretching her beautifully familiar features into a mask of betrayal. "No," Aisha whispered, the wind knocked from her lungs. Unthinkable truths unfolded as if paper was being ripped. The man stepped closer, and Aisha felt the weight of everything crush against her. "You were never meant to find him," he said softly. "You were meant to find this." Aisha's heart raced with betrayal, confusion spilling over. In her chest, a weight sank like a stone. "What do you mean?" she pleaded, the fear in her voice shaking. With a flick of his wrist, he revealed a small device, familiar yet foreign. The recognition hit like ice. "What is that?" Aisha gasped, the pieces of her brother's fate spiraling far beyond a simple reunion. Time seemed to freeze again, a pulse of realization dawning as she awaited the crushing answer. The man's grin grew wider. "Everything," he said, letting the word hang in the air like a promise, a threat, or perhaps a death sentence. In that moment of clarity, Aisha understood something vital shifted among them. A betrayal that would alter everything she thought she knew. A voice deeper than skin whispered through her, echoing the fragile tendrils of family lost. Connections she never fully understood. And in her gut, she felt it. Everything was crumbling, and she was caught in the whirlwind, standing on the edge of the unknown. What was left? Aisha's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of confusion. The man's smile twisted like a knife in her gut. "You were never meant to find him. You were meant to find this." His words hung in the air. Jamal's grip tightened around the wrist, pulling her back, but she couldn't look away. John's face faded and morphed into the shadows of that stranger. The realización hit hard. Everything she thought she understood was unraveling. "Where is he?" Aisha's voice came out barely above a whisper, fear tangling with her determination. But before the man answered, a shrill scream pierced the night. Crowd members recoiled, eyes wide. A shape emerged, darting into the light. A girl about Aisha's age, wild-haired, a torn dress trailing behind her. "Get down! They're here!" she yelled, voice thick with panic. Aisha's pulse quickened. 2 pairs of eyes flared with panic. The tension snapped as figures erupted from the shadows. Masked men brandishing weapons, their eyes ruthless and cold. Fear rippled through the air, swallowing anything resembling hope. The man's eyes widened as he registered the new danger. "Get away from him!" he shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Aisha. But she had no time to think. The scene around her exploded into chaos. A bright flash erupted from behind her, a blinding light blaring through the darkness. A loud bang reverberated. The ground shook like thunder, sending bodies flying and screams punctuating the air. Aisha stumbled back, her heart crashing hard against her ribs. Something sharp pierced her side. She stumbled, gasping. Pain flared, but she couldn't focus on it. She looked up. The world was a blur of screaming faces and chaos. Hands grabbed at her, tugging her this way and that. Instinct kicked in, the urge to survive. "Come on!" Jamal shouted, pulling her toward a side path, away from the frantic mob. She barely registered the darkness closing in around them. They dashed behind a row of trees, the sound of chaos fading briefly as they caught their breath. "What the hell just happened?" Jamal panted, glancing back, blood rushing in his ears. "I don't know! We need to find John!" Aisha's voice trembled, but she couldn't afford to linger. All of it felt surreal. The man with the device, her sister standing with the attackers, then the chaos erupting all over again. But as fear wrapped around her, another realization dawned. A piercing scream echoed through the trees. Not just any scream. It was Kira. The fear in that sound cut through her like ice. "Jamal!" Aisha shouted, pulling away, heart pounding. "That's my sister!" "Wait!" He grabbed her arm, desperation in his eyes. "You don't know if it's safe. We have to find a way out! Aisha tore herself free, propelled by instincts that coursed through her. I won't leave her, she yelled, the determination surging back. As she dashed through the trees, another shockwave rippled in the air. A flash of light. An explosion followed. Hot debris fell around them. Aisha barely managed to dodge it as she sprinted forward. Just ahead, she spotted Kira, half tangled in the chaos. A group of masked men hovered over her, harsh hands gripping her arms, their intentions clear. Kira! Aisha cried out, voice cracking. In that moment, everything stopped again. Kira looked up, eyes wide, filled with a mixture of fear and recognition. Then the ground shook once more from another explosion, but this time sparked a blinding flash that illuminated the night, and then it all unraveled. The man in the shadows, the one who had smiled and twisted truths, lunged forward with terrifying speed. He tore off his mask, revealing a familiar face, but Aisha's breath caught. It was John. But not her brother, her other brother. No! Aisha gasped, throat tight, confusion smashing against disbelief. Run, Aisha! I can't let them take you too, John shouted, urgency lacing every word, as he stood between the masked men and Kira. What? You're not John? You're... Words fumbled in her throat, disbelief overwhelming her. With that, the fragments of family, trust, and identity shattered like glass, leaving Aisha standing in shock. Confusion wrapped around her tightly, choking off her breath. Who was this stranger, really? And why had everything come crashing down so violently? The truth loomed like a specter. What other secrets lay hidden, waiting to reveal themselves? As the air crackled with tension, she felt the weight of everything shift, knowing this was just the beginning of an unfolding nightmare. Aisha's heart hammered in her chest as she faced the dark figure before her. The weight of reality crashed down, and she could barely process the revelation. John, the brother she thought had been lost, stood there, transformed from family to foe. "Why are you doing this?" she shouted, desperation lacing her words as she surged forward, fists clenched. "You're supposed to protect us!" John's expression twisted in pain. "I'm not the enemy, Aisha. I'm trying to save you." He looked over his shoulder at the approaching masked men, wide-eyed with fear. Jamal stepped closer, protectively positioning himself in front of Aisha. "We have to go now," he urged, glancing back as smoke billowed from the chaos. Aisha felt her breath quicken, a lump forming in her throat, fearing she might lose everything, her brother, her family. "You're lying! You were the one who left!" Before John could respond, Kira jumped in. "Aisha, listen to him!" she cried, grabbing her sister's shoulders. "This isn't safe. We need to get out of here." Aisha's heart sank as the realization dawned. The streets had never been safe. Her family was torn apart by unspoken truths and hidden agendas, all while she had been searching for a sense of belonging. But then a piercing shout cut through the chaos. "Get down!" Flashes of light illuminated the park, and the tension in the air crackled as bullets began to fly. Aisha dropped to the ground, instinct kicking in. She felt the heat brush past her ear, heard the shattering of glass near the stage, where moments ago she had hoped for change. "Stay close," Jamal shouted as he grabbed her arm. Together, they ducked behind a tree, breaths coming in sharp gasps. Aisha's thoughts raced. What was happening? The chaos, the betrayal, it all swirled like a tempest inside her. Suddenly, a loud roar erupted from the crowd. Masked men were pushing forward, cutting a swath through panic-stricken attendees. A fire ignited in the distance, illuminating the night sky. "Let's go," John urged again, his voice strained. "I can help you, but we have to move now." A tightness gripped Aisha's chest. "But where?" she cried, desperation creeping in. "Follow me!" John gestured toward the back of the park, eyes darting nervously. The crowd was chaos incarnate. Shouts and cries mixed with the sound of feet pounding against the ground. Fear radiated off every face she passed. She felt the presence of something dark creeping closer, threatening to swallow them whole. As they fled deeper into the woods bordering the park, Aisha dared a glance behind her. Darkness enveloped everything they had left behind. The chance for connection, the possibility of hope. What had started as a night of inspiration now turned into a nightmare. With every step, she felt a sense of determination rise within her. "I won't be a victim," she thought. "Whatever awaits, I will face it head on." But then a loud crash echoed through the trees. A fallen branch snapped beneath the weight of heavy footsteps. "Keep going," Jamal urged, tugging her arm. Reality crashed down. The stakes were more significant than she had ever comprehended. The truth was emerging, and Aisha knew she needed to uncover it or risk losing everyone she held dear. "Do you believe me now?" John asked, panting, as they pushed further into the shadows. "I'm one of the only ones who knows the truth. You need to trust me." Aisha met his gaze, searching for any signs of deception, but all she saw was raw emotion. She had no choice but to put her trust in him. "Fine, but if this goes wrong, then we'll find our way back," John interjected, determination drumming through his voice. And as they ran into the unseen night ahead, Aisha felt the weight of the unknown. Every choice would lead to an unsung truth, drawing them deeper into a world shrouded in mystery. This moment held everything: the need for family, the power of truth, and the burning desire to reclaim their destiny amid the shadows. "Your story isn't over, Aisha," Jamal said quietly, squeezing her hand. It was then, amidst the dark of night, that Aisha finally realized the fight for her story was only just beginning. But before she could process the enormity of that declaration, the ground trembled again, and an ominous light flickered behind them. What awaited them in the darkness was uncertain, but one thing remained clear: secrets would be revealed, and the truth would be a force to reckon with. You have to subscribe now! The next chapter of this unfolding saga is just around the corner. Don't miss out! Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild turn of events. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't what?